Hello citizens, Digital Master here, and I hope everyone is doing well. Here is a quick guide to refueling in Star Citizen Alpha 3.17. In Alpha 3.17, CIG has introduced ship-to-ship refueling, which allows players to help one another by refueling each other's ships. This is in perfect time for the upcoming edition of Pyro in the not-so-distant future, where travel distances will be greatly increased and fuel management will become a high priority. So if you are a Starfarer pilot, here is how you currently get the job done. Please know that you will first need a base Starfarer or the Starfarer Gemini in order to participate in offering your refueling services. Both ships can be used to refuel and currently carry the same amount of fuel capacity. So, let us get started. Once you call your Starfarer to the hangar, you will need to take the time to load your fuel pods with fuel. There are currently two types of fuel, quantum and hydrogen. Quantum is used by ships during quantum travel, while hydrogen is used during normal flight. So, before you fill up, be sure to work out what type of fuel you want to provide. You can load up with just one type, or you can mix and match as you have 6 pods to work with. Do know that each pod can only carry one type of fuel. For now, to fill up your Starfarer, enter your pilot seat, open the Mobi glass, and then proceed to open the Vehicle Maintenance Services app. From there, you will want to first ensure that your Starfarer's internal tanks are topped off. You can then scroll down a bit to see a list of your fuel pods and their current quantities of fuel. If this is your first time, these will undoubtedly be empty. In order to get these filled, drag the slider for each pod all the way to the right to fill them to capacity, or alternatively, to your desired amount. Once you have completed that, go ahead and select the Buy button. The pods will begin to fill up gradually as this game simulates the time it might take to fill the pods up to the capacities that you have designated. It may be a good idea to go ahead and set your desired prices for your refueling services. You can set your hydrogen and quantum fuel price list separately. However, you can also choose to leave it at its default value, which has a 10% markup of the price that you paid for the fuel. Once filled and your prices are set, you are now ready to begin your refueling career. Now might be a good time to check the global chat to see if there are any pilots in need. In the future, there will be quantum beacons for refueling services like the medical beacons in the game are right now. At the time of making this video, that functionality is not quite in the game. You can also work within a group of people or your org to provide your refueling services. Once you find a nearby stranded pilot, it is time to put this refueling beast of a ship through its paces. Be sure to agree on a spot to meet and fly to that destination. Once you rendezvous with your target, you will need to prepare your Starfarer to refuel. Exit your pilot seat if you have not already. Head to the console near the entrance to the Starfarer's bridge door. Click the console and select the refueling option. From here, you will select the Deploy Boom button and wait for the boom to extend from the rear of your ship. The console will display when that process has completed. Once the boom arm is extended, you will need to have the pilot, your new customer, hail your ship for docking. To achieve this, they must first target your ship, and the default key for this is the letter T. Following this, they will need to request docking, and the default key for that is the letter N. If they press the letter N without first targeting your ship, this will not work, and all they will do is give their landing gear a nice little workout. Once they have successfully requested docking, you should receive a notification on your helmet's HUD as shown on the screen. Hit the left bracket on your keyboard to accept the docking request. Once accepted, the pilot of the ship you are servicing will need to move toward the back of your ship if they are not already there, and maneuver toward the boom arm. It may be worthwhile asking if they are familiar with ship-to-ship docking so that they do not damage your ship or their own during this process. The great news is that there is an auto docking option, where the other pilot can simply hold down the letter N. This will trigger auto docking for them if they are close enough to the boom arm. Once docked, it is time for the other pilot to enter their Mobiglass and open the Vehicle Maintenance Services app. From there, they can proceed to order the type of fuel that they require. Once they have made their selections, they should press the buy button. At this point, you will need to be at the console mentioned earlier to begin the refueling process. To begin, there are three main things to review before starting the refueling process. 1. Make sure you have your prices set as discussed earlier. Number 2, determine which pods you want to distribute your fuel. If the pilot is asking for both fuel types, you are going to have to serve one type at a time. Quick side note, you can only have one tank set to the in and open position at a time. No two tanks can receive fuel or give it at the same time. Once you have selected the fuel type that you need, you can open the output valve for the pod as seen on the screen. There are 3 buttons associated with each of your pods. There's an open button, which designates the fuel contained within to flow out of the pod. If the open button is activated, you will see the arrows indicating this on the side of the pod in the console UI. The second option is close, which is self-explanatory, but closing the pod so no fuel can exit or enter. Finally, there is in, which designates the pod to receive fuel. It is important to remember that these buttons are only relevant when refueling other ships and reorganizing fuel between your fuel pods. When refueling at a hangar or pod, you will not need to open the pods to receive fuel. However, you will if you want to move fuel between pods. Number 3, you will need to also choose how you wish to begin refueling. You can either open the nozzle first or choose your flow rate first. If you open the nozzle first, please note that once you move the flow rate to the right, refueling begins immediately. If you choose to first set the flow rate, it may be worth noting what type of ship you are refueling and how much fuel is being requested. If a very small amount of fuel is being requested, this refueling process will be fairly quick. Otherwise, the flow rate becomes more meaningful as it will determine how fast and efficient you are at refueling other ships. The flow rate will have a significant impact on how fast the refueling process is. This matters because there is the possibility of wasting fuel and possibly damaging both your ship and the ship you are refueling. So be sure to pay close attention to how fast the refueling process is per the amount of fuel requested, so that you find the sweet spot and optimize your refueling technique. Another sidebar, this is one of the reasons I love Star Citizen so much, because anyone can do any job in the game, but to master the job may take some time, practice, and a little bit of skill. So, now you are ready to start refueling as your customer's ship is near full. Either close the valves to the pods currently in use or move the flow rate slider all the way to the left and the refueling process will end. Once the transaction is complete, you will be paid the credits earned from the exchange, and your customer's credits will leave their electronic wallet. To finalize the transaction, be sure to hit the abort button on the screen. At this point, your newly satisfied customer will be undocked, and you can start to work on getting to your next customer. Don't forget to retract your boom arm and close all of your pods. A few more things before we close out the tutorial. You can move fuel between your pods at any time you desire. If any of your pods are not 100% full and there is another pod with the same fuel type, you can move fuel back and forth between those two pods. This can also be done from the back walkway. Here's how. First, as mentioned, there are 3 controls for each of the pods: in, open, and close. To move fuel to a pod, select its in button to allow the inflow of fuel from another pod. You will then need to choose the pod that you wish to move fuel from and select its open button. This will start the transfer immediately, as there isn't a nozzle for this. So be sure to make the decision on which pods you want to move fuel between before opening any of the pods for transfer. In the future, it seems we will have an option to detach each pod as well, but that functionality is not quite in the game. We will also be able to refine Quantanium in the future as well, using our beloved Starfarer. But this also is not yet in the game. When the time comes, I will create a tutorial for this as well. One final thought. There are other types of pods and boom arms that you can purchase at various locations around Stanton to replace or mix and match with the ones stock loaded on your ship. Though there aren't a lot of options currently, it is pretty cool that we get a few options or alternative options to choose from right out of the gate. As locations where these are sold can change, just know that you can swap out your pods with another pod type that carries a little less fuel but also allows for faster inward and outward flow of fuel. You also have other options for the boom arm, which also impact the flow rate. You can find these in various shops and space stations around Stanton. For now, I hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you in the verse.